The Silent Cartographer, a level with such a rich history. Originally just a developer test level, later turned into its own standalone mission. This one sees Chief and company searching for the Silent Cartographer, which is really just a fancy name for a map room that reveals the location of Halo's control center. And they just put it on some random island, apparently. Perfection. Action-packed from the start, this mission sees the player immediately thrown into some intense beach combat, which is probably my favorite part of the game. And after fighting our way through, or just walking away, we're left to unravel the mysteries of this island. Personally, this is my favorite mission, so I'm very excited to show you all that I found. This is the cut content in Halo CE series, where I'm going to dig into every nook and cranny of the game's code to show you all the cool stuff the developers left behind. And as a bonus, I'm making this into a fully playable Steam Workshop mod, so if you want to see it all for yourself, check the link in the description. Now, let's kick this video off with the initial beach fight. As I dug more and more into this level, it became quite clear that the developers were originally going to have vehicle combat play a much more prominent role. And that really shines through with the opening cutscene. Right as you arrive on the Pelican, a banshee would take off, and after bonking on the structure, it would fly up and over the horizon. This is a fully functional and working banshee animation that was just left unused. And I'm guessing this bonk here wasn't intentional either. Likely this massive structure was added or modified after the fact. Now, by this point, you've probably noticed something a little funny. The banshee door is completely open. It's a very weird quirk with how these types of animations work in Halo CE. They are just developer recordings and have no actual AI actions behind them. It just takes a static object and replays back the recorded inputs. This leads to this weird effect where the banshee doors are just left completely open, not entirely sure why. You can see this same exact thing during the Mause Foehammer cutscene. The banshees chasing her are these same types of recordings, so you get that same effect. Anyway, back to this beach fight. It didn't really make much sense to have this banshee do this cool custom sequence just to fall out of the sky once the animation finishes. So, similar to how the Maw does it, at the end of the animation, the Elite's AI takes over, and the Banshee now becomes a fully fledged feature, another element of this excellent beach clear that you have to fight through. And honestly, I think it adds so much extra flair, makes this fight feel that much grander, even more like a proper Halo encounter. After finishing the beach fight, you'll then have Foehammer drop you off a Warthog. One unused element that kinda confuses me was the Warthog Foehammer drops off used to come with a Marine already on the gunner, just like how it is when you get the first one back on Halo, which this is a good thing in my mind, since the Marines aren't exactly the brightest and will often just get themselves killed, or kill themselves, or I kill them. Don't judge, I know you've done this too. Having a gunner here makes sense in case the Marines didn't make it. But that's not all here, and honestly, I had to go boot up my original Xbox just to confirm this wasn't a bug specific to the Master Chief Collection. And nope, there's actually some extra dialogue here that never plays on any version of the game due to a bug in the level's AI scripting. It plays right after Foehammer drops off the Warthog.
You two, we could use a hand.
Shotgun!
Cortana, addressing the Marines, says we could use a hand, and then you'd get one of 3 possible Marine responses.
I got shotgun! Shotgun!
Dibs on shotgun!
Honestly, I was really hoping to find little dialogue nuggets like this. Now, continuing our theme of cut vehicle battles, grabbing our Warthog and moving forward, normally you'd be greeted by a bunch of ground forces. Jackals up close, elites and grunts in the back. The usual. The Warthog making pretty short work of them all, but the devs originally had something a little more interesting in mind that was ultimately cut from the final build. In addition to all these ground forces, you'd also see a Spirit dropship dropping off 2 ghosts, intention clearly being some cool ghost on Warthog action. The Spirit dropship doesn't just spawn here though. Instead of moving forward, you can instead turn around and drive back around where you were first dropped off. If you instead go along this bend, the Spirit dropship and ghost would spawn over on this side. So no matter which way you go, you'd have to deal with them, which leads to a rather funny side effect. So it's probably pretty well known at this point, but you don't actually have to do this initial beach clear. You can quite literally just walk away. In fact, we do this very thing in the speedrun. We immediately turn left and completely ignore the beach clear. But don't worry, they'll be fine, probably. Anyway, walking away is just faster thanks to a conveniently placed Warthog at the other end of the beach, and in the base game, there's no real penalty for doing this either. The level still progresses as normal. That is, until you bring these two cut ghosts into the picture. With these two now in play, if you try to just walk away from this beach fight, you've now got a bit of a problem. I honestly believe the whole reason they can even spawn over on this side was for this exact purpose, punishing the player for trying to walk away from their responsibilities. I really like this too. I love when games are just like, sure, go for it, but also here's the thing, good luck. And on the other end, it's more vehicle combat, something this level really benefits from in my opinion. Now let's move on to what the scripts call Shaft A. Shaft A is the one containing the actual map room, the whole reason we're even here. It's the one you probably went to first just to get locked out and have keys tell you to use whatever means necessary and failure is not an option. Anyway, right off the bat, and this isn't cut content per se, but the dialogue is a little finicky to get, and I didn't even know it existed, so it's worth mentioning. When we first arrive, you get this dialogue line from Cortana.
There, in the cliff wall. I'll bet the Silent Cartographer is somewhere inside that facility.
You probably recognize that one, it plays every time like normal. However, these next two lines are only possible if you or the Marines don't spot and enter combat with any enemies, which is, well, a little difficult. What most people do is just blast through on their Warthog and never hear these lines. So first up, if you have Marines in your Warthog and park behind this rock, you'd get one of 3 possible dialogue variations.
Anyone else see what I see? How are we supposed to get around that, huh? Looks like a Covenant position ahead. Dug in pretty well, sir.
We got a Covenant welcoming party, sir. They're dug in real tight, too.
Now, if you don't have any Marines with you, you'd instead get Cortana again.
They're already inside. We have to get in there and stop them before they learn the location of the control center.
For the mod, I made these extra dialogue lines always play and removed the check for if you're in combat because that's kind of annoying. So now you'll always hear them. So let's get in there. Next up, we have the locked door. Upon coming down the ramp, you're greeted with a small squad of Covenant and a rather sinister looking baddie at the other end. But we're too late. The door is locked tight. Now, let's talk about what was cut here. Halo CE uses something called command lists to script some of their AI actions. These are essentially a list of direct commands that must be executed in order. You can do things such as tell a grunt to walk over there, turn around, scream, whatever you want. Now, let's get back to this Gold Elite. The developers made a command list for him, but it was unfortunately never finished, which is why he just stands here doing nothing the entire time. This is a bit of a problem because he's also scripted to disappear after a short while. I swear this is the last one. I'm guessing whatever the Elite was going to do involved running off screen, so you'd never actually see this. With all this in mind, I went ahead and finished the command list as best as I could, given what I could find. Hopefully it's along the lines of what the devs were intending here, and I think I got it pretty close. First, the door locks in front of you as per usual. Then the Elite lets out a hearty laugh.
Interesting.
But he can't gloat for too long, he's a busy guy, so after a short time, he scurries away off screen and then he vanishes into thin air. But you don't get to see that part. Honestly, I'm not sure why they didn't wind up scripting something like this here. It had all the pieces in place and it really didn't take too long to put them all together. But for whatever reason, it was just never done. Now, before we head back up to the beach, we're actually not quite done here yet. I have some more unused dialogue, or rather dialogue that would just never play. The developers scripted this next conversation with certain variants in mind, but due to an engine quirk, you'd never actually hear them. If you recall, after the door locks, you'd get this conversation playing out.
Go ahead, Cortana. Have you found the control center?
This conversation is well done and lets the player know that Keyes is en route to another objective, which, spoiler, that doesn't go very well. And our objective is to find Halo's control center by any means necessary, which means we need to find a way to unlock this door. Well, if you recall, towards the end of this conversation, you would hear Sergeant Stacker chime in.
Second squad, ready to roll as soon as everybody's topside.
Followed by the Marine named Vicente.
LZ looks secure, sir. Nothing moving.
However, there's some dialogue variants here, other Marines that could talk instead of just these two. For the first line of dialogue, instead of Stacker, you could instead get the Marine Fitzgerald.
Second squad is prepped and ready to move out as soon as everyone is topside.
And the very next line, instead of Vicente, you could instead get Fitzgerald.
The LZ is secure, sir. All quiet here.
Or the Marine Mendoza.
Secure here, sir. The LZ is all clear.
The game is supposed to cycle through these variants semi-randomly, sometimes playing Fitzgerald instead of Stacker, or maybe having Mendoza for the next line. However, the game never ends up playing them, and these are fully voiced and integrated dialogue lines too. In the spirit of this, the mod will always play Fitzgerald's variant instead of Stacker for the first line, and it will randomly play either Mendoza or Fitzgerald for the second. Enjoy. Oh, there's more too. Once again, continuing that theme of vehicles playing a more prominent role. I have some more cut banshees to show, and not one, but two. As you make the walk of shame back to the surface, you'd have two enemy banshees spawn in. Not only that, they are also scripted to follow you all around the beach, so even if you drive away in your Warthog, you can't quite get away from them that easily. It's another one of these encounters that makes you scratch your head a little as to why it was cut. I mean, vehicle combat is awesome. After dealing with the banshees, we make our way towards Shaft B. Shaft B is where you shut down the security system to unlock that Shaft A entrance door we were at earlier and finally get revenge on that spiteful, awful, thinks he's so funny. You'll recall this involves making your way through a side path on the beach. There's no changes for this section approaching the tower, unfortunately. Everything happens exactly as normal, at least until you get to the actual security room itself. In this room, there was originally going to be some kind of encounter, but was ultimately cut and left empty at some point in development. Little nuggets and scraps remain, but unfortunately no real enemy spawns, just a blank canvas. And after adding an elite spawn to it, it became pretty clear why. The AI's pathfinding does not exactly work very well in this room. There's this metallic raised up portion over some mirrored glass. The AI really struggles with this and can't quite pathfind correctly. Moving around erratically, he wants to chase you, but the glass... Anyway, I went ahead and left this elite spawn in because it's kind of cool to sneak up on him. Just know it's a bit janky if he does spot you. Alright, after deactivating that pesky security system, it's time to make our way back outside.
Mayday! Mayday! Dropship Bravo 22 taking enemy fire! Repeat, we are under heavy fire and are losing altitude!
You might remember this part. I remember it specifically because this radio call always used to scare the shit out of me when I was a kid. Something about the music and the panicked pilot. Oh, and all the stealth elites too. You know what? This part is still kind of scary. You might recall after making your way outside, you'll see exactly what that radio call was all about. A crashed Pelican, bringing us rocket launchers no less. So let's talk about what was cut here. First off, and this is probably my favorite of the bunch, there was going to be a squad of Marines down by the crashed Pelican, locked in a desperate fight with the Covenant all around them. And that's not all. There's also another two ghosts that would spawn in here, making this situation even more dire. Not really much you can do from up here either, especially on Legendary. You can only watch hopelessly. Oh, and once you make your way back and hop in the Warthog, the ghosts are then scripted to target you. Once again, continuing that focus on vehicle combat that I really wish they kept in. I will note one thing. If you do manage to make it to the Marines before they perish, they aren't actually scripted to do anything. They are really just more Marines to hop in your turret or passenger, which is a little disappointing. But hey, we can't have everything. I really do like this whole sequence though. Just adds that little bit more flavor to an already excellent level. Feels almost like a little side quest. And now, armed with rockets and the security system deactivated, it's time to make our way back to Shaft A. Making our way through the now open security door with Goldie suspiciously missing, and fighting our way through a few squads of Covenant, we suddenly received this radio call.
Full hammer to ground teams, you've got two enemy dropships coming in fast!
The Covenant sent in some reinforcements topside, and all those beach Marines can do is just buy us as much time as possible. Similar to that radio call we got when the Shaft A door was locked, we have some more fully voiced dialogue variants that would just never play here. Instead of hearing Sergeant Stacker,
Damn it. Okay, people, we got company coming. Let's set the table. Engage enemy forces on site.
you'd instead hear Fitzgerald respond.
Everybody get ready for company!
It'll be easier to hold them off from inside the structure. Can you get inside?
Negative! They're coming too fast! They're right on top of us! You better go for the cartographer, Chief. We'll hold them off as long as we can. Good luck, sir.
My best guess as to what's really supposed to happen is that if the beach sergeant were to meet some terrible fate, this was supposed to trigger the Fitzgerald variant, but due to how the CE engine works, this just really can't happen this way. Anyway, after the radio call, we finally make our way to the map room and activate it. From this point on, there's no cut content on the return trip. It progresses the same as in the base game. Got him. Now, let's move on to the final cutscene, a rather memorable one. This sees Foehammer take a rather unconventional route to the control center. We are heading deep underground through a secret passageway, and by the way, how they did this was pretty clever. This underground portion is the very same one from the security room earlier. It's the same exact tunnel. The manhole opening at the top is actually just a lighting effect overlaid onto the ceiling itself. This creates the illusion of the ceiling opening and closing. It's also incredibly bright.
I give to you our man. Oh, Jesus Christ, that's bright.
Anyway, let's talk about what was cut. There's a specially made box unique to this level alone. It's called the B-30 Falling Box. It's not actually considered a piece of scenery either, rather the game lists it as a vehicle, but no, you can't actually drive it, much to my disappointment.
I beg to differ.
I believe the reason it's programmed as a vehicle is for the in-game physics. As the name implies, the box, well, falls.
Jesus Christ.
Now, back to the final cutscene. Let's freeze on this frame. Notice the 7 boxes over the top of the manhole opening. You can probably see where this is going. While Foehammer is dropping down into the tunnel, you'd see falling boxes. Some here, and then some more when the camera angle changes. I'm guessing the reason these were cut is because it doesn't really quite make sense. The manhole is already open at this point, so the boxes would have already fallen because, you know, gravity. And, well, that's it for the big stuff, which brings me to the cut bits and tidbits section. Here I'll discuss various little small cut or unused pieces, along with some random shower thoughts that aren't cut content per se, but I'm talking about them anyway. First up, I'm going to reference back to the developer commentary for the final cutscene.
Wait, here's Shikai covering our asses again with the absolutely fake manhole.
Oh yeah, that's...
Did Pelican actually fit in that manhole?
The answer to this existential Halo lore question of, does the Pelican even fit in the manhole? Well, yeah, actually, just barely fits. The next, and I had a bit of fun with this one, is the original objective of this mission. The devs talk about it a little in the commentary.
It was to kill the Prophet, who was trying to find this Silent Cartographer. Remember, you were supposed to, the Prophet was gonna go, he was getting the map, and you were supposed to go and assassinate the Prophet.
In the spirit of this original goal to kill a Prophet, I added an Easter egg. If you play this mod on legendary difficulty and make it to the map room within 10 minutes, there's a little secret waiting for you. An unused Covenant enemy type, the Engineer, which you'll recognize as being eventually used in Halo 3 ODST. Bungie fully modeled this enemy type before they eventually axed it, and thanks to this kind modder on Nexus, all of its animations are fixed up and ready to go. I also added a special unused weapon, the flamethrower. What you do with this information is up to you. Next up is not a piece of cut content, but it's a bit of a funny thing. So, the very first piece of code that I saw when I started digging into this was the guaranteed explosion of doom. So naturally, that's the very first thing I looked at. This is specifically a damage effect that's supposed to come from an explosion of some kind. It's used on this ramp incline, which is a little after the shaft A locked door. Without this damage effect, you can actually just fall right down to the bottom of this little shaft and you're effectively soft locked down here. No way to get back up. So the devs put a kill volume, and that volume's kill effect is the guaranteed explosion of doom. Here's the thing though. This damage effect also applies a physics effect. So using invulnerability cheats like in Halo Checkpoint Manager, you can just sort of pogo. Fall down a little, get launched back up, fall down a little, get launched back up, yeah. Oh, a bit of a warning if you do want to try this at home, the effect also makes the screen blink yellow a lot, so flashing lights warning. Next up, I have some stuff you just may not have known about. Bungie was very okay with the player doing things out of order on this level. If anything, it's one of the most forgiving in the entire franchise. Not only can you just walk away from this initial beach fight, you can also go ahead and do the security room first before ever seeing that shaft A door lock. And if you do this, you'll get some unique dialogue.
This isn't the map room. Analyzing. This is a security override station for the main facility, located somewhere else on this island.
And last, but certainly not, actually, you know what, yeah, probably least, here's a bunch of random crap the developers forgot about. We have these 2 random assault rifles in the middle of the beach, another pistol by the crashed Pelican that they just forgot to spawn in, and another pistol in this random corner just past the guaranteed explosion of doom. They don't spawn in normally, and they either forgot to delete them or more likely just didn't care. And that is all of the cut content in Silent Cartographer, plus a little extra. I truly hope you all enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed finding it. I'm planning to do one of these for every single level, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any polls where you can vote on which level I do next. For the next one in the series, I think I'll be digging into dig sites. Digsite is a community project by modders and some 343 employees that adds a bunch of very old assets back to the mod tools. I'm talking assets from when Halo was still a third-person RTS shooter or whatever the hell it was. So that'll be fun. Like, this dude literally looks like a Fallout character. I don't know what he does, but he looks cool.
No, not that. I want the computer chip.